Touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
Joined by Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. 5:35 on 365 Sports and Sickle 365 Radio. Back in the behind the scenes, Hayden, Jack, Armstrong, Paul back with us tomorrow. Craig Smoke, David Smoke, joined by Mickey Spagnola. All right, Mickey, the one game left. What are your thoughts about the way that the preseason schedule, and I know they had the early game, but there's now a buffer between the last preseason game, which used to be a mad rush to get cuts, pick other people up, and the next thing you know, you're playing a game. Isn't this probably the most, you look back and go, why weren't they always doing this in the first place?
That's a very good point. You would like make your cuts on, and it never failed, like the day after Labor Day, and then you would start the season, 5 days later?
Yep.
Yeah, this makes so much more sense. Now, the Cowboys got a little short-sheeted here on this deal, since they had to play the final preseason game on a Sunday and then have to open the season on a Thursday. Instead of getting 2 weeks, they get like 10 days. So, yeah, they kind of got short-sheeted here. Tampa Bay, though, has to play Saturday, their final preseason game, and it is on the road, so they have to travel. But you would think they would have given those teams that have to play the Thursday night opener a little bit of a break and move up that last preseason game.
Mickey, what's the status with COVID throughout the team right now?
Oh, boy. How long you got?
We got 23 minutes.
Yeah. See, the problem is they don't come quite clean with close contact and testing positive if you're vaccinated, if you're not vaccinated, because then the rules change. So, they've got the 5 guys that are still in there. And again, you got to come up with 2 negative tests before you can get out of any of the protocols. It's not just, I got to wait 5 days or I got to wait 10 days. If you test positive, it's a matter of not having symptoms and having 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. So, we spoke with Dan Quinn today, and he said that he's feeling better, but he didn't want to get into just if he's had any negative tests yet or not. And then the last 2 guys will be behind everybody else, DeMonte KZ and Connor Williams, because they just got put on the other day while the other ones went on earlier. So, obviously, I would guess none of them will be ready for the last preseason game, and most of them wouldn't have played in. Well, I take that back. Malik Hooker probably would have played because he's got to still convince them that he belongs on this 53-man roster to start the season. But I think there's a good chance that the first day. If we had a regular week getting ready for a Sunday game, so you go Monday through Sunday. That first day, that Monday, will be next Friday. So they've got a little bit of a span to be able to get some of these guys back. And again, as I said, a lot of it has to do, were you vaccinated or were you not vaccinated?
Mickey Spagnola with us, DallasCowboys.com. I saw a note, and I don't know exactly who the reporter was, but it was a reputable guy that mentioned the NFL. What do you think the percentages are now? Like 90-something% across, like 92 or 3%? Would that be kind of a good number? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so, David. I think it's getting closer and closer. And and the Cowboys pointed out when the deal happened Saturday before that preseason game against Houston with Dan Quinn and Carlos Watkins, that the team was 93% vaccinated. That's 93% out of 85. So 7% out of 85, that's only a handful. And in my understanding, a couple of the guys that ended up, having to get on COVID reserve were either waiting for their second shot or had their second shot but weren't 2 weeks removed from it. So kind of Johnny-come-latelys, right? So maybe by time the season starts, this team could be really, really close to 100% vaccinated. The staff is 100% vaccinated. And as we know, that doesn't preclude you still testing positive with the new variant out there spreading around. But you have a better chance if everybody in the building is vaccinated. And so there's nobody that's not vaccinated going to spread it around to somebody that is vaccinated. They went virtually these last couple days for meetings. They kind of went back to how they were doing it last year. And to give you an example, today was our day to interview the Cowboys coordinators, and we went back to WebEx interviews with all three of the guys. So they're taking all the precautions they can moving forward and try to get this thing behind them.
Mickey, obviously they feel really good about Zeke and also Tony Pollard, but how much does Rico Dowdle's injury mess with the depth, or what kind of impact, if at all, does it have?
Yeah, I think it has a significant impact because not only was he going to make the team as the third running back, but he also was a valuable special teams player. And so that kind of hurts. And the two guys behind him, Hardy and Knox, they're rookie free agents. I mean, the one guy's from Tiffin. You know where Tiffin is?
No.
Yeah, well, good, because I don't either. Although I think LSU opened the season one year against, or they had a game against Tiffin. I don't know if it was a season opener. But yeah, so I don't know that they have a third guy that they'll say, well, that guy's worth keeping on the 53-man roster. And so it kind of has a snowball effect. So if you only keep two running backs, would you keep a fullback? Well, they lost the fullback who would have been on the team, Shewu Olaluna. I'll get it out. And so that causes a problem. And the only other fullback on the team right now is Nick Walston, an undrafted rookie from Argyle, by the way, Argyle High School. So, yeah, so do you keep a fullback or do you keep an extra tight end? They might have to do that anyway because the third tight end, Sean McEwen, is out with a high ankle sprain, and, you're not sure when that guy's going to get back. So now you only got two tight ends. So, yeah, it kind of creates a conundrum for them at the running back tight end position.
Mickey, they play on the road against Tampa Bay, and then, of course, they go to San Diego. That's going East Coast all the way back to the West Coast. Back-to-back games on the road to start the year. Obviously, Justin Herbert has been very impressive early on in his career. What kind of a dicey start? Obviously, if you win one of them or both, what a hell of a start. But how dicey is that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, especially since you're hoping you revitalize the defense that was just gosh awful last year. And now you got to go up against those two offenses, those two quarterbacks. I guess we'll get a good idea if they at least made advances with a defense that, really sold them out last year. I mean, they finished 6-10. They were only one game off the pace in the NFC East, which is nothing to write home about. But had that defense been a little bit better last year, they might have finished 8-8 and won the division, even though Dak Prescott wasn't in there. Even though Tyron Smith and La'el Collins played all of two games together, combined last year, and both of them were Tyron Smith. And then lose Zach Martin. I mean, the injuries on the offense really crippled this team. Then you lost Andy Dalton. You had to start two guys that had never started games before, and they came that close. But had the defense had been average or just not very good, they might have gotten to 8-8. But they were poor. They were just poor. So, again, I guess we'll find out right away where that defense is and if Dan Quinn has made a significant difference in how they played. Because, sure, they've added some talent, some veterans, Micah Parsons, but the majority of the guys were here last year. And I just saw no excuse for them to play that bad as they did.
Mickey, cut-down day is coming early next week when rosters get all the way down to 53. With this final preseason game, is there anybody that's on that bubble that could make the team potentially with a good performance this week?
I think there's some young guys, make the team. Would they keep 3 quarterbacks, or would they keep just 2 and just keep the one that's going to be the backup, either Cooper Rush or Garrett Gilbert? I think that's the first one to look at. I think there's some defensive backs. Maybe, it's how many can you keep? You've got some young guys that, Nashawn Wright, who showed that he's got something. How many cornerbacks can you keep? Can you keep 6? And then that comes down to how many safeties are you going to keep? Can you keep Malik Hooker, who's not going to play Sunday, has only played a few snaps in the 3rd preseason game, and he's a veteran. We know his history, but can he help? I think there's a bunch of guys that are wide receivers. It looks like they would keep 5, and it would be the same 5 from last year. But could your draft choice, Simi Fehoko, make the team and knock one of those last 2 guys off, or would they keep 6 wide receivers? So I think that there's some things that could happen in that last preseason game that some guys can emerge. Mike McCarthy was talking about it the other day about somebody asked him, have you ever had somebody just jump out in that last preseason game and kind of force you to keep them on the 53? And he mentioned about 3 or 4 guys that came to mind. So it's possible, but it's going to be tight with the number of veterans they still have on this team.
Mickey, I have mentioned that I sent to Craig and Paul, and we had a couple of comments. Craig did a note about it. The drone shot from a mile or so outside of the Star all the way through and out of cars and trees and windows. It looked like what they could do off of like send kind of a missile into somebody's living room if they wanted to. Probably not the best day for me to be mentioning that, but you know what I mean. And Craig said it took 15 takes. Do you know if they lost any drones along the way during that time?
From what I've read and heard, no. And it was rather amazing. So 15 times they tried it, and my understanding was the only attempt that came through perfectly was the 15th one. So it took them that many times. See, when I first saw it, David, Craig, I thought they spliced it together. I said, there's no way they filmed 3 minutes and 20 seconds perfectly, that they had to splice it together, right? Because that thing had to crash into things. But no, my understanding is the 15th take, they flew it through. And I said, I want to meet that pilot, because that guy did one heck of a job to fly that thing through everything. And there was no, my understanding also, there was no, kind of taking license with video and kind of, making something happen that really didn't happen. The thing went through the windows of the truck, went through the door of the Ford Center, and did go through those in the weight room when it went through the different structures that it went through. So, and then evidently when it finally went through the weight room and got outside, the wind had kicked up, and now it was hard to drive the thing over the practice field. So rather amazing. They should win an Emmy Award for cinematography or something. I
think they might, man. I really do think they might. Thank you, Mickey. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being patient with our timing today. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you guys. Talk to you next week.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Armstrong, one more break here. Let's take a break, come back. We'll try to read a couple of more of your text and or your chat room. I want to say something. Paul Catalina has been